listening to the Top Music Guitar Podcast, the show for guitar teachers to learn about the craft of teaching great guitar lessons that students love. If you're looking to start or expand your studio and make guitar teaching your full-time dream job, you've come to the right place. Each week, you'll get to hear from some of the top guitar teachers from around the globe and get their best tips and experiences so you too can build your own dream studio. I'm your host, Michael, and I've founded one of the top guitar schools in Australia, written a best-selling curriculum, and I mentor guitar teachers. I'm excited to share my expertise with you and the wisdom of all the experts we interview. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. Let's get into it. Hello there, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Michael and I'm here with the Top Music Guitar Podcast. And today I got a real treat, a really special guest and a great friend of mine from Boston.
Boston, Massachusetts.
So we've got Lauren Bateman, a really great friend, someone who's got a wealth of knowledge in the guitar and music teaching fields, as well as an extreme amount of business knowledge, someone with a very successful brick and mortar music school and who's made a really great transition into the online teaching space. So Lauren Bateman, welcome to the Top Music Guitar Podcast.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here and do this.
Oh, it's great to have you. So for the listeners who haven't heard of you yet, and if you've looked up guitar on YouTube, chances are that you have come across Lauren and her channel in one way, shape or form. But Lauren, can you give the listeners a brief overview of your story so far, your journey and transition from a scientist to a music school owner and now an online teacher?
Yeah, I'll kind of give you the abridged version of that. So I started off in science. I took piano lessons when I was a kid and I absolutely hated piano because it was all the sight reading and everything that bogged me down and I hated it. And my sister gave me a guitar when I was 16 as a confirmation present. And my mom told her not to buy it because I was just going to waste it and I wasn't going to do anything with it. So I wasted the piano lessons, so they weren't going to give me guitar lessons. So I kind of had to teach myself how to play this instrument and just always loved music. Went to school for science, got degrees in archaeology and biology. I worked as a labor construction worker for a number of years. And then I switched off and worked for a pharmaceutical company in cancer research for a number of years until I decided that, music was just what I was passionate about. And I needed to do something with music. I didn't know what it was going to be. So I was just kind of typing in Google, how to phase out your job to do music full time. So I ended up quitting my job and I started, performing. But, when you're performing originals, you're not really making a lot of money. So I had to make money. So I started teaching. And I didn't even teach guitar in the beginning because I felt so uncomfortable with guitar because I was mostly self-taught. I actually started with teaching voice, but then I did end up adding guitar after the fact when I realized I knew a lot more than most beginners know. And then I was actually, compared to an absolute beginner, I actually knew a lot about the guitar. And I just started teaching out of, a spare bedroom in my apartment. And then moved over to a bigger studio and hired my first teacher who was then teaching out of a spare bedroom in that apartment. And then hired another teacher to work the days that he wasn't working. And then I was like, if I got all these people coming in and out of the house, maybe I should open a commercial location. So I actually opened my first commercial location in November 2012. So that was the first LB Music School. Then opened a second in 2016 and a third in 2019. We did lose one of those during COVID. We did go back down to 2, but we still have the 2 music schools that are up and running. Last month, I think maybe we did 75,000 in sales between the 2 locations for the brick and mortar. And, in that time, I was originally the original teacher and I was teaching every day of the week, lots of hours. And I realized I actually had a car crash through my building in 2014 and realized that you can't be working in your business and on your business at the same time. I learned that lesson very quickly. And, but I miss teaching. So I wasn't really teaching anymore. And in 2017, I decided I'm going to start trying this YouTube thing and see if I can help people and where this is going to go. I had no clue what was going to happen. I was just I'm just going to throw some videos up on YouTube and see how it goes. So now YouTube has kind of been my main thing. I still have the brick and mortars running, and I have administrators and stuff that help me with that side of the business. So it's really been an evolution over, the past, what am I going to say, like 12 years that I've been doing this. And it's been a lot of fun, and there's been a lot of, ups and downs and stresses, and I'm sure we'll talk more about those. But I guess that's the quick version of the story.
Yeah, and quick version of the story, but there's already such a wealth of knowledge and stuff that you've already shared there. I noticed you said like you lacked confidence in your teaching ability.
Absolutely.
As long as you were a couple of steps ahead of the student, you knew more than them. And for whatever reason, I find that music teachers, guitar players, musicians always suffer from imposter syndrome where, they're unsure of their ability or they're doubting. So obviously, you went into it briefly, but do you want to expand on what gave you some confidence to, ramp up the teaching?
Yeah, I'll tell you the story about what happened. So, I was teaching voice, and I had taken voice lessons. So I was like, I felt a little bit more confident in that I knew what I was doing, even though I had to teach myself how to play all the scales and stuff on piano. But other than that, I felt pretty confident in voice. So one day I was like, I got to make more money. If I teach guitar too, like I can get more clients, right? Voice and guitar. So I had my guitar in hand. I had a spare one. I brought it into the living room. And, my girlfriend, who is now my wife, she was there. And I said, can you just humor me for like 5 minutes? And she said, okay, sure. So she had never touched a guitar before. She was a drummer, but she had never touched a guitar. I said, I just want to teach you something. I just want to see, if I can do this. And it was Ode to Joy. Very, very simple. Single note melody. And I think she played 2 notes, if even that. And I ripped the guitar out of her hand. I was like, thank you so much. I went into my office, which was like literally the room next door. And I added guitar lessons to my website because I forgot how hard it is for a beginner just to play a single note. And just having her go through that process reminded me like I am so much better than that. And it's like, okay, we have a wide enough gap here that I felt comfortable that I could help someone at that point.
Fantastic. And yeah, you only need to be a couple of steps ahead. I wouldn't recommend being, for anyone listening here, only one step ahead and having to do 10 hours of preparation every week for your lessons. But yeah, don't underestimate how little total beginners know and how hard it is for them in the beginning to do really basic things. But thank you for sharing that story, Lauren.
Yeah.
Now, you mentioned, you had 3 locations. Unfortunately, you dropped back down to 2, and I'm sure, lots of other listeners here have been put into similar positions where they had to make some hard decisions or, really beaten around by COVID. But you're obviously doing something really well in your brick and mortar business to go up to 3 and even, drop back down to 2 and still be doing, $75,000 a month. There's some pretty big numbers. So
yeah, what
are some of the amazing things that you're doing over at the Lauren Bateman Music Schools that give it that wow factor?
Yeah. So, just to give you a comparison, like before COVID, like February 2020, our high point of the business was $90,000. And that was with 3 locations. So to be at 75 with just 2, we're doing pretty good. So, for me, I think the important uniqueness of my personality and the, fun over perfection. I tell people, because we're in Boston, and of course there's Berkeley, and I always tell people like, we're the music school for people who don't want to go to Berkeley. Like that's what I tell people. I'm like, we just want you to have fun. And I always, I try and instill in my teachers, every student is coming and taking music lessons for a unique reason. And probably 95% of the students who come through our door are not going to do anything with music professionally. So make it fun for them, make it enjoyable, make this, if they're coming for a lesson once a week for a half hour, make this the most gratifying half hour of their week. Make this the place like that they want to go and hang out, that it's stress-free. And that's what we do, even with like the colors of the studio, with bright colors inside. We want people to walk through the door and feel energized. Not that it's like, my piano lessons, I took them in the convent. Okay. So I had like nuns running around in the background. But I mean, that was like, when you think of like the old style of piano lessons, like it was that classical style. I wasn't allowed to learn any like contemporary music, and I ended up hating it. And I didn't want someone to go through that. So I always tell my teachers, it's great to do these classical methods. And I'm sure you all have, great methods of teaching. Just remember that every student's unique. Find out what the enjoyment is for them and follow that path instead of always trying to like stay on your path.
That is absolutely critical. Like, yeah, making sure you understand the reasons why students are there and being adaptive and dynamic to what they want to learn. And yeah, I can totally relate to like I'm sure many people can, learning in the convent or just this really boring old stale kind of approach to teaching. And that's really doing your students a disservice. So yeah,
right.
The listeners, we don't just keep on harping on this about at Top Music because we have a certain agenda to push. It's literally like, if you want to be really successful, hearing from, one of the most successful music teachers I know, is make it fun for the students. There's definitely a grounds for classical music and the academic approach, but if your students aren't having fun, then, at the end of the day, they're only going to be with you for a short period of time.
Right. I mean, if you love jazz, that's awesome. Like, get your students to the point where maybe they will appreciate jazz, but understand that most students walking through your door aren't going to want to do jazz. And that's probably, I would say, the top 5 complaints I get from students and students who do my online courses that were taking lessons with in-person people. They're like, my guitar teacher just like wanted to show me what they could play all day. So it's like, don't make it about you. It's about them. And when you make it about them, it doesn't matter what you do in business. That's what's gonna make them want to come back, because they realize that you care about them and that you're not there just to show off what you can do.
100%. Awesome. So obviously you're doing really, really well on the business side of things, as well as, obviously connecting with students and giving them an awesome experience. What are some of the actions that you took that led to that massive growth in your offline brick and mortar music school?
1, hiring good staff. Make sure you're hiring good people who understand what you're trying to do. So I don't just going back to what we were just talking about, I don't hire anyone that takes music too seriously. Okay? We have a laid back approach. If I get someone who's like, oh yeah, the first thing I would do when they walk through the door is teach them music theory, I'm like, you will not teach at my school, because that's just not in line with what our vision is for the school. We can teach them music theory down the road, but I'm just like, no, I don't want that like in the first lesson, because that's going to send them out the door. So I think it's really defining with staff what your mission is. And if you don't have any staff, you understanding what your mission is. And then again, treating people like humans, making people know that you care about their progress and that you sincerely want to help them accomplish a goal. Because, when I first started, I taught a lot of adults, and I know with guitar, it tends to be kind of teen and adult heavy for a lot of people. And most of these adults have doubts. They've come from guitar teachers. I have one student who told me, yeah, my last teacher told me I should quit guitar and play harmonica. And I was just like, really? Like, no, we're going to teach you how to play guitar. We're not going to teach you how to play harmonica. So it's really understanding that I always tell people, like, you're kind of like a psychologist. 80% of it's psychology and 20% of it is guitar. So if you can understand what makes your person tick, what motivated them to come through the door, and then delivering on what you say you're going to do, then that's it. Even if they're the worst guitar player in the world, if you do that, they're going to come back every week.
You heard it there, listeners. There's the recipe for success right there. So, and yeah, one of the biggest breakthroughs in my business was definitely transitioning from trying to make everyone, a 6-hour a day kind of practicer and just going, oh no, at the end of the day, we want them playing songs. If it comes to Christmas time and they're in front of their family and go, oh, you've been taking guitar lessons, can you play me something? And they can't play something, then, they've wasted their whole year. And it doesn't matter how fast they can play a pentatonic scale or an exercise, they've got no measurement or that gratification. So going back to having fun and hiring the right people that facilitated that.
Yeah.
First it started with my mindset, and then getting people who are people pleasers who could connect with people was absolutely huge in my business.
Yeah.
And that's when retention went up and we started getting a really cool vibe as opposed to being this really strict place. So
yeah, I think when you start understanding it's about the simple things. I had an 80-year-old, someone that was in my course, and he was just like, I played Happy Birthday for his wife was turning 82. And he's like, I played Happy Birthday for my wife on the guitar. And that was like the best thing in the world. And, what's happy birthday? A few like single line melody notes. But to him, and probably her as well, that was like the greatest moment. And it's something that's just so simple, but it means so much.
100%. And we often underestimate the ability we have to have a really massive impact on our students' lives. And, we might be thinking, success for us is being on a stage in front of 1,000 people or getting a record deal or, all these really big pie in the sky kind of ideas. But it's the little everyday things like, teaching someone to play happy birthday or a younger student getting up at assembly in front of their school and playing the national anthem. It's little things like that, which, create those life-changing events down the track. So that's absolutely terrific, Lauren. I know a lot of us can learn a lot from what you've just said there. But obviously, keeping my eye on you the last couple of years is your YouTube channel's really blown up and taken off. And, doesn't say I can't go on Facebook or YouTube without seeing one of your videos or one of your ads. So, you're just absolutely everywhere, which is happening, becoming omnipresent. So what's obviously led to this transition to YouTube, and what was your approach that's made you stand out so much compared to, especially with everyone, anyone with a camera these days can become a YouTube teacher, especially with COVID. So what's been the intentionality behind that process from your end?
Yeah. So like I alluded to earlier, I stopped teaching in my business completely. So I was just working on managing the brick and mortars. I had over 20 employees and multiple locations. So, that's a lot to juggle. So you can't really be teaching a full schedule and juggling all that. But I really miss teaching. I really, I guess my passion was really just teaching and making people happy. So I missed that, but I needed something that would allow me to be able to teach people without me needing to be at this location from, 4 o'clock to 8 o'clock or any specific time. Because not only do I do, the guitar, brick and mortar, the online, I have real estate, I have other stuff that I'm doing. So I have a very, very busy life. So I need to have flexibility in my scheduling. And that's why I was like, well, I'm going to do YouTube because I can obviously record the content whenever it's free for me to do so. And, there's no requirement for me to have to be in a certain spot on any given day of the week. I can kind of make my own schedule. So that was appealing to me. For me, I think the thing that was very important from the beginning and why I had so much success early on, again, and I think this comes from just my background in business and understanding marketing, I knew exactly who my audience was going into it, which I think a lot of YouTubers, and even I've worked, I've done YouTube coaching with guitar teachers and other music teachers. I actually had a voice teacher the other day, and we were talking about her channel, and, she's putting up technique videos and she's putting up, performances of her singing. And I just asked her, I said, well, what genre of music brings you to life? And she really loves teaching musical theater and doing musical theater stuff. And I said, well, you need to hone in on that. You're not just a voice teacher anymore. You are a musical theater teacher. That's going to be your thing. And every lesson you put on your YouTube is going to be related to musical theater or technique and singing. And for me, I just thought about who is the person that I loved teaching the most when I was doing private lessons. Like, who were the students that I'm like, I can't believe they're paying me to have this much fun? And for me, it was always those people who are over the age of 50. One, because we all like the same music. Okay. So I love, the classic rock, the Beatles, the old school singer songwriters. Plus it was music that actually had a guitar in it. So that was helpful too. And I just had a lot of fun. So I said, you know what? I'm going to be the guitar teacher for like boomers right now. Like I'm going to go after like the retired audience. Cause what's the biggest excuse for guitar? I don't have time. I'm like, well, you're retired. You got plenty of time now. So when I went on YouTube, that's it. I focused all my song lessons. I mean, technique is technique. A D chord is a D chord is an E chord, no matter what you're doing. But my songs focus on the Beatles, Neil Young, CCR. So I was attracting people with the lessons I was putting out. And that's something, just to give you guys a little insight on YouTube, that is a YouTube signal. So YouTube, when you release a video, it sees if your subscribers are actually watching the videos. And if your subscribers are showing interest in the content you're putting out, YouTube, it tells you, YouTube literally tells you this. It says, because more of your regular viewers are watching this video, it's giving it wider viewership. YouTube shoots it out to other people. So that's why I always tell people, who's your audience? Know who your audience is, because if you make a video that's not for your audience and nobody watches it, YouTube's never going to show that video to anyone. So those are things I work with clients, is really getting down to like, who are you serving and what problems are you trying to solve for them? I got baby boomers, all right? They have had this lifelong dream that they've given up on probably 3 or 4 times, and they finally want to make it happen. So that's the pain that I dig into. And I always tell people, kind of like our vision is, we want to make sure you don't leave this world with the music still inside you. Because that's who I'm teaching. These are the people who are trying to check off their bucket list. And I'm the teacher who's helping them check off their bucket list before they die.
Absolutely amazing stuff. And
yeah,
it obviously shows, there's a degree in your business knowledge and your ability to, connect the dots, which is leading into all this. Because so many guitar teachers, it's just, oh yeah, I can play guitar, so I guess I can teach for a little bit of money. But, if you get right into the business side of things, as you said, learning psychology and connecting with people, but to be like, the go-to person to help them tick off, guitar from their bucket list, that is just so much deeper than what most people ever go to.
It's a powerful reason why, it's a good why for why I help people, and I get all the messages reaffirming that, but just because that's what I do doesn't mean that has to be what, someone else does. And I think that's part of the success, is finding out what makes you unique, because every teacher has a different teaching style. So I teach different than Justin Guitar, than Marty, than Andy, than, the dozen other Rick Beato, all those guys. I'm female, which also helps, because most of the big YouTube guitar teachers are male. So that does help. But, what is unique about you? My personality is unique to me, and I'm going to attract people who like my personality. And Justin's going to attract people who like him and his stories and the way he talks. He's got that accent and everything. And Andy too, they got the accent. So, you're going to be attracted to who you like. And that's why so many people can be successful.
Yeah. And there's just, even if you think you have the smallest niche ever or you're super specific, the world is such a big place. And when you have access to that online world, there's literally 7 billion people who are going to come looking for you. And if you can just resonate with your own audience and be yourself, then that, of course, you'll find the people. You just got to stick with it for long enough, or intentionally go about going out and finding them.
Right.
But yeah, it seems like you've got such an amazing wealth of knowledge on YouTube as well. And do you want to tell us a little bit about your YouTube coaching for any of the teachers that might be interested in moving onto, the online space?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I have another website that I just started last year. It's called Full-Time Tubers. I do have a free training over there, but I also have a little jumpstart course that I start most people on who are kind of interested in getting started with YouTube. Because when you're just getting started versus like you've got 5,000, 10,000 subscribers, it's a little bit different. The what you do is different. What I'm doing now at 175,000 subscribers is different than what I was doing at 5,000 subscribers. So I just coach people on some of the aspects that we're talking about. What works, what doesn't work, okay? What are tried and true things that will help you get more visibility, good thumbnails, good titles, okay? Those, hands down, every time. If your thumbnail stinks, nobody's going to click on the video. So even when you have 2 subscribers or 2 million subscribers, you have to have a good thumbnail. So it's focusing on the fundamentals of what's going to help you get started, getting some of that business acumen down, understanding that, you're creating a business, and to make money, you have to have something to sell. Unfortunately, we're musicians, we're teachers, so we can sell courses about learning to play our instrument. So that's what I do with a lot of service providers is, one, make sure do we have a course? Do we have something we can sell that people want? And start building an audience, start building a community that you can go out and you can start selling your products to. And it doesn't always have to be an exchange of time for money. Because I know a lot of music teachers, I have a half hour here, half hour, I have so many half hour slots that I can give away in a week. And this is the great thing about online. It does take a little time to build. I would say it's probably easier to build a brick and mortar than it is to build an online, but the scalability of online is so much greater than a brick and mortar. Let me tell you, if I knew what I knew about online today, I probably wouldn't own a music school. That's how scalable it is. It's just me, right? Me, 2 virtual assistants and an admin. And I made almost as much money online as I did in the music schools last year.
Absolutely unreal.
So
as a lot of people are finding, especially, with COVID, when governments were shutting us down and saying you can't work or, for health and safety reasons, a lot of people just, lost their paycheck overnight and their income and couldn't support themselves or their families. So you obviously found you were just ready for that opportunity to come along and were able to capitalize on that. So obviously it speaks to, if you can set up an online business as a means of income, which is just as big, if not better, than your regular paycheck, then you can weather the storm and access that infinite market while everyone else is restricted by the powers that be.
Right. And that was, COVID is a good example of kind of like being the right person in the right place at the right time and having the right things in place. So I started YouTube in 2017, and my first video went viral towards the end of 2019. So it was like the perfect storm of, because obviously we know 2020, everything shut down. And of course, as someone with a brick and mortar, when everything shut down, we lost about 30% of our business overnight. And my wife and I sat down and we had a big conversation. We kind of did like, what is the worst case scenario? I said, the worst case scenario is we're going to lose everything. Like, we won't lose our house. I'm like, I know I can go out and get a job and make, like, I'm just that kind of person. That's just my mentality. I'm like, we will make it through. It's like, I'll go bust somewhere. I'll go beg for money. Some people are like, I could never do that. I'm like, no, if I need money, I will do whatever it takes. But I'm like, we might go bankrupt. I was like, but I know if we do, that we'll be able to get it all back, that we can build it again. Because at this point, we didn't know how long were we going to be shut down. Were the music schools just going to close indefinitely? Like, there was a big question mark. And I'm sure a lot of you guys felt like that when everything shut down. You were like, what's going to happen? Like, nobody knew. Nobody had any clue. And, I remember it was April and I was in the kitchen and I just kept like refreshing my screen. I had like a COVID sale going on that month. And it was like the end of the month. It was like ending that month. And I just kept refreshing my screen. And it was like the number like kept going up as we were having this conversation in the kitchen. And my wife was just like, how much money did you make? And I was like, $16,000. I was like, we're going to be fine. But I had never made that much money in like a month. For just by myself. I made it at the music schools, but just by myself, I was like, holy crap. I was like, we just did this. And I was like, we're going to be fine. Even if the music schools close, we're going to be fine. So that was, to me, it was just that aha moment of like, this is something big. Even after COVID's done, this is going to be something big.
Yeah. And I noticed you're obviously throwing out numbers and statistics and talking about money and sales. A lot of musicians, really have bad mindsets or attitudes towards money. They're often scared to ask for more. You don't seem to have any of those inhibitions. So what advice would you have for guitar players, music teachers, musicians who, think money is the root of all evil or don't want to ask for, more than they think they're worth?
Yeah. So we've all been taught that money is the root of all evil. And my parents still say that to me too. They're like, oh, you don't want too much money. Money causes problems. And in the bottom line with money is it only makes you more of what you are. So you're like, oh, like rich people are jerks. And it's like, well, to be blunt, if you're an asshole and you make a lot of money, you're just going to be more of an asshole. But if you're someone who's kind and generous, if you make a lot more money, you can be more kind and more generous. And those are things, that I think don't get told about people who make money. So let me give you an example. When COVID shut down, we were on the verge of saying, do I have to cut my admin hours? I mean, the schools aren't open. There's not really there's nobody to sit at the front desk. Yeah, they were making some phone calls and doing some billing stuff, but I'm sure they weren't working the 40 hours a week that they usually were working, right? So because I was making so much money online, I cut my pay from the music school and I paid my admins so that they wouldn't lose their jobs during COVID and they wouldn't have to worry about, were they going to be able to pay their rent for the next few months? So those are examples, that's an example of no, it's not like millions and millions of dollars, but that's an example of an option. And that's what I tell people. I'm like, money won't make you happy if you're not happy, but it can give you options. That's the biggest thing with money is it gives you options. And unless you've had enough money to understand how less stressful life can be when you have money, let me just tell you, do you want to know how much stress I had after that initial period of COVID? I have zero stress in my life about money. It's not there. It's not there. My wife and I have conversations all the time. Like we go to the grocery store and we just buy whatever we want. And that's not a huge thing, but how many times have you gone to a grocery store and you're like, ooh, that's kind of expensive. I got to put that back. Like I've been there. I've been to I've only got $50 this month for groceries, and you pick and choose what you can. Imagine being able to go to a grocery store and just putting whatever you want in the cart and not worrying what the total is going to be at the end. That's liberating. That's life-changing. And we're not talking millions and millions of dollars. I'm just saying enough money to solve some of those problems that cause you the biggest stress in life. I don't clean my house. Someone else cleans my house for me. Why? Because I'm a slob. And I don't have time to go. I hate cleaning. I hate doing the lawn. Anything I hate doing, I just pay other people to do because I don't want to do it. And I'd rather use my time to work on my business or do something else that I do love. So those are examples where money can be used as a tool for good. Just because you've been told all your life that money is evil doesn't mean it is for you. It doesn't have to be. If you want to make it, you can be. But if you make it into something good, it can be something good. And trust me on this, when you make enough money, it's a good thing. Yeah, that's all I'm going to say.
Yeah, or simply just saying, hey, how much better would the music that you make be if you could do that full time as opposed to putting, the best part of your day into a job working for someone else. And,
yeah.
At the end of the day going, yeah, maybe I won't spend 2 or 3 hours composing because I'm absolutely beat. So everything you've said will hopefully resonate with our listeners and get them thinking that, money is a good thing. It is, as you said, just a resource and it amplifies who you are. And if you want to be able to do bigger and better things, you need the money to be able to do that.
Yeah. I mean, imagine if you were you had your charity and you were cool, I'm just going to give them $10,000. That's good, right? And that's what you can do when you're making enough money. You can have these passion projects and have the money to actually follow through on them.
100%. And I remember taking guitar lessons with a number of different teachers around my city. So I was just okay, well, who's a good player? Who's a good teacher? And I'd go to their house and, sometimes you'd walk through these absolutely disgusting, great people, great players. But I remember this one house I walked through, it was like a sea of clothes on the floor. And there was just a pathway, walked like a game trail, walked through the clothes from the front door, through the kitchen, out to the shed in the backyard. And it's just it was just disgusting. I only went for one lesson. I was yeah, it was a great lesson, but I don't think I'm going to go back there. But literally one of the things that's allowed me to build momentum is that positive feedback cycle. You make some money, you buy some nice stuff that makes you stand up from the competition with a nice music stool and nice equipment.
Yeah.
So more people come to you and then you can charge more and that gives you the confidence. So you keep on just upgrading your equipment. And, that's saying the rich get richer. It's more about just reinvesting into yourself and your business and your studio, and getting all the equipment that you need. And like what you said, not having to compromise with poor quality gear or, really nasty chairs, decking out the waiting room for the parents who are, ultimately the customer more so than their kids, so that they have a nice place to hang out. And every little 1% thing you can put back into investing in yourself and your business and your lifestyle by paying other people to do, the jobs you don't want to do, it all comes back and feeds back and allows you to do more good things.
Yeah. And you're less exhausted, when not here, we have like a small yard here, and my wife actually likes doing the lawn. So like the little patch of lawn that we have, she takes care of. But I'm like, if you don't want to, I will pay. And she's like, no, I like it. But the last place we had a big yard, and it would take you like a few hours to like mow the lawn, clean everything up. And it's like, you're exhausted after doing that. So you're not going to want to like go and record YouTube videos, or you're not going to want to go and prep for lessons. Like, you're exhausted. So it's also an energy thing. So think of it that way too.
100%. Well, we are wrapping it up and getting close to the end, but I did want to ask you, getting back to the YouTube thing, is you seem to have a fantastic community. Obviously through your online, so your offline business, we're always seeing great photos of teachers and students on social media, but more specifically, some of the reviews you get from your students are absolutely amazing. So can you tell us about the intentionality behind creating a community and sharing all these wonderful breakthroughs you're having with your students online?
Yeah. So I have there's a free community. I just have a Facebook group, because my audience is older. So they're still kind of hanging out on Facebook over there. We do have a private group for students, and it's a great positive environment because, like I said before, so many of them have come from negative experiences where they were told they couldn't do this. So it's nice to meet other people who are their age from all around the world, and they share videos of them playing, and everyone supports them and says, great job, or they'll ask questions and people in the community will answer the questions. And I think that's so important because people want to feel like they are part of something. I pop on there live a lot, so they kind of get a lot of like VIP stuff from me. So they feel special because they get to see me, I'll pop on there in like my PJs sometimes sipping coffee, and I'm like, I was playing this and I wanted to show you guys. So I'll put videos of me practicing and stuff that I don't put on YouTube or that I don't put out a lot. So they feel very connected and they're made to feel special because, they put money down. They're supporting me. They're supporting my family. And I want to, again, show them that I care. So I show them, the aspects of my life. You see the red Camaro back there. So I share, stories behind, what's the Camaro mean? Why do you have Ninja Turtles there? What's the Gretsch? Why does the Gretsch never come off the wall? So I answer all their questions about me. So it's letting them know who I am and getting to know me better as a person, not just the guitar teacher, but also allows me to have a relationship with these people and get to know them because obviously I can't see them in a room. We're online. So the only way I can talk to them is maybe through a chat or maybe through a video that they post. So that's really important is people want to belong to something.
Wonderful. I think there's just so much everyone can learn from what you've just said, building a community, whether it's offline or online, and just that, minor celebrity status, I guess you get from the YouTube is our students, want us to succeed. They want to feel like they're part of something and they want someone to look up to and they need a leader. So you're obviously doing a really great job for these people who, want to be led towards their guitar playing goals and anyone listening and teaching is going to be the same. These people want help. They need guidance and it's our job to get them from, A to B. And if we can do that in the most fun, entertaining, enjoyable way possible, that's really cool. But don't underestimate that some of these people are going to, really want to know and take interest in your life as well, because they're going to want to, you're more than just a guitar teacher to them at the end of the day. And if you can let them into these, little areas and snippets of your life, they're just going to be intrigued.
Yeah. And that helps you connect. It builds a stronger bond with them, because, my guys like classic cars too. And they see I like classic cars. And they're like, oh, Lauren's so cool. She likes classic cars. And, and she's younger and I'm older. And so it's those little connections that you create with people. What what are the commonalities? What do you share? You know, I have a dog. I post pictures of my dog, and I know you have a very similar dog. So, you know, we post pictures of our dogs because people love dogs. And then, you know, people send me photos of their dogs. So it makes me more than just, hi guys, I'm Lauren who plays guitar on YouTube. It's like, no, I'm a person too. And, you know, I have a life outside of just YouTube and outside of guitar. And I'm willing to share that with you.
Yeah, I always knew there was something I liked about you, and it's the fact that you have a sausage dog just like me. No, any little thing that people can find similarities and common ground with, you know, are great ways to connect.
Yeah.
Now, an assumption on my behalf that most of your students, I'd say you've got this massive YouTube presence that's growing bigger every day. And that obviously feeds into a course. And you've just either updated your course or have released like a new version. So do you want to tell us about your beginner guitar course?
Once COVID happened and I was making a lot of money last year, I went through and recorded my whole beginner course again. And I recorded all my other little mini courses that come after it. And it's my process for teaching people to play guitar. It's the process I came up with, you know, when I was in my studio. And I always, you know, forget, because again, my students are older. So I felt a lot of the method books. I'm sure as a guitar teacher, you guys know there's like never the perfect method book. So I felt like I wanted to create my own system for working people through like step by step. And I call it the 7-level system. And it's funny because I know you have the ninja books, Michael, with like the belts and the colors. I always compare it to like karate. So it's like the level system. And I like level 1's like the white belt. I don't call it the white belt, but it's like 7 levels of learning guitar. And once you get through that, you can really go anywhere. If you want to go into blues, if you want to go into finger picking, you can go anywhere. But it's basic foundation of helping people learn what they need to on guitar so that they can start having fun playing songs that they know and love.
Yeah, and you know, great minds think alike. It's all about what's the simplest, most effective first step I can get my students to take. And then once they have those fundamentals down, you know, move up to that next level. But It's just so great that, as you said, there's just no really good or all-encompassing methods. And that's what led me to write my own book. That's what's led you to go out and create your own course. But to see that the next generation or even the older generation of guitar students are getting a better shot at learning their instrument because people like you, people like me are trying to go, hang on, these books that we're getting off the shelf, they're just no good. They were created 50 years ago. They haven't been updated at all. You wouldn't get medical advice from a doctor from 50 years ago. They'd be telling you that smoking is good for you. So why are we getting musical advice when there's been breakthroughs in literally every other area of education? Like, you don't learn at school the same way you did 50 years ago. Lots of other areas and breakthroughs in sports, in psychology, in science, in success coaching. It's all different. But why are we teaching guitar the same way it was taught 50 years ago? I don't know, but it sounds like you're definitely onto the right path. And the simple fact that you can have all these massive impacts on your students' lives by taking a different approach with a different curriculum, it's just testament to things are being done the wrong way. And hopefully we're all getting collaboratively on the right track.
Yeah. And for me, one of the other like terms we throw around, we're like fun before theory. That's, I don't really teach a lot of music theory in the beginner course because for me, I remember being that kid in piano lessons that was like force-fed music theory. And I hated it. I appreciate music theory. I don't want people, because I know there's people like, no, you need music theory. I love music theory. I teach music theory. I just don't teach it to the beginners because from my experience, and this is how we teach on our experiences. For me, that was the most frustrating part about being a beginner was like, I had to learn this language that I knew nothing about. Like, well, this is a C chord and it's a triad and it's made up of C, E, and G. And it's like, I don't even know how to play a C chord. Can we just assume this is a C chord and let's move forward? So I tell people like, I will let you know when you need to know. But in the beginning, just trust me that what I'm telling you is okay for right now. And we'll get into it more later.
And a lot of teachers just need to remember back to when they were a kid about, what did they enjoy? What didn't they enjoy? And most of them are going to go, oh yeah, I probably didn't like it as much. And then, a couple of years later, when I knew that guitar or piano or music was my thing, then I got obsessed with it. And then, that leads you down the path of expertise. But yeah, just right. So many people, if you're teaching them sight reading and music theory, like your days with them are absolutely numbered.
Yeah. I mean, when I was teaching privately, most of my people were acoustic guitar and they were female. It was funny when I was teaching in person, most of my students were female. and acoustic guitar. They didn't want to learn the pentatonic scale. They didn't want to play solos. They didn't want to improvise. So I didn't teach them that stuff. Like I didn't want to like force it down their throat. If they didn't want it, they didn't want it. I'll keep teaching them finger picking songs. Totally fine. Whatever they want, I will teach them.
100%. And yeah, it's just about making that connection with them. And if they're happy, if they're enjoying their lessons, they're coming. And at the end of the day, if you can't read music, and I always differentiate between sight reading and understanding the theory. Sight reading is a musicianship skill. Understanding what's going on is a completely different skill. But unless you're a professional musician or a really high up hobby player, you don't actually know how to read music, and you can get quite far with only really basic music theory. So just remembering that not all of our students are in the academic side of music lessons, and just making it fun for them, and teach them on a need to know basis. Very, very important.
Yeah.
So Lauren, in the last couple of questions for you here, I know it seems like you were working a job and you decided, I'm going to make more money. And so you became a guitar teacher, and then you did really well at that. And then you opened a commercial location and you did really well at that and got up to 3 locations, 90 grand per month. That sounds like you're making well over $1 million a year, which is a huge milestone. And then it seems like you're doing a similar thing, with the online space. So what has led to you being successful in almost, every endeavor that we see you entering into?
It's the Midas touch. No, I tell people, I'm very lucky, and that I'm the type of person that when I say I'm going to do something, I will do it, and nothing will get in my way or stop me from doing it. I'm very persistent in that matter. And I'm the person who will put in the work when you don't want to. There's been days where it's like, oh, it's so nice outside, I want to go outside. And it's like, nope, I can't. I really have to do this work. So I'm a bit obsessive on that point. And that is a strength of mine. It's a weakness in other areas of my life, because then I ignore some other things. But I'm very good at goal setting and hitting targets. Whenever I've worked with a business coach, they love me because they're like, you set a target, you hit it, you move on to the next thing. And it's like, well, why would I set a target and not hit it? Like that's just me. That's my personality. It's like, if I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. There's a lot of people who are like, oh yeah, I'm going to do this. And then they find out it's a lot of work. And then they're like, never mind. So I'm that person who knew, like, even going into YouTube, I didn't make any money the first year in YouTube. I don't know, maybe I made like $30 or something, but I didn't make a lot of money. And then the second year, I was looking at the numbers actually yesterday in preparation for this. I'm big on numbers, if you can't tell. I made $3,000 my second year in YouTube in 2018. Like, that's nothing to write home about. Okay. That's really nothing to write home about, but that's, for me, the motivation. That's the light at the tunnel that's showing me like, ooh, I made a penny today. If I do that every day of the week, now I just need to learn how to multiply that. That's how my brain works. So that's my biggest thing that I can give you for advice is set a goal and figure out how to hit it. Whether you have to break that major goal into 10 micro goals to get there, when it gets hard, you have to push through. You have to push through. I don't think anyone is successful in life by giving up when it got hard. That's it.
Wonderful, wonderful advice there. And you mentioned coaching before. So how important has been having the right coaching and guidance from, mentors a little bit up above you, or tell us about, the right coaching.
Yeah, I believe in mentorship so much. I have a new mentor that I usually work with every year. I hired a business coach that I worked with for the entire year last year. She was actually the woman who told me to go online and do YouTube many years ago. I cycled back and we worked again together for the entire year. I hired her for a full year. But I think it's very important to work with the business coach, someone who knows something more than you do, or they're doing something that like you want to get there, or they can connect you with people. Like I had a business coach, and this was in 2020, and then it was like $10,000 to work with him for like 3 months. I think it was the most I'd ever spent on a business coach. And I was just like, This was when COVID had just happened. So I'm like, I don't even know if I have the $10,000. I was just like, whatever. I put on a credit card. I was like, I'll put on a credit card and I'll just pay it off over time. Because that, again, that's the kind of person I am. I'm like, nope, I know I'll make this money back. I know I can make money. And he was telling me, I was still doing all the editing for all my videos and everything. He's like, why are you still editing? He goes, you need to get an assistant. And he's like, send me an email. I'm going to hook you up with the virtual assistant. And that virtual assistant's still the one I use today who edits all my YouTube videos. So it just goes to show you that depending on the level of business coach you work with, they have different connections that they can hook you up with. But they've made the mistakes that you've already made. I made tons of mistakes on YouTube. And, when I work with clients, I try to prevent them from making the mistakes that I made. It's kind of like the fast track. There's really no secrets. Okay. And I don't know how Michael feels about this, but there's so many gurus out there telling you this is the secret. There really is no secret. Just like, what's the secret to your success? Hard work. Hard work. And it's not a secret. It just is. So, work with a coach. One, you have to have a chemistry with them and you have to believe that they can help you and that they are going to help you. And you have to find someone that's ready for the level you're at. If you're just starting, maybe a $10,000 coach isn't worth it, or maybe they are. Maybe you can afford a $10,000 coach and you elevate so much faster. That's the difference. And again, that's kind of like where money is good thing. But I just feel it's important to have someone to check in with. If you can't hold yourself accountable, get a coach that can hold you accountable. That can be a game changer for a lot of people.
Oh, I couldn't agree more about the hard work thing. It literally comes down to, you could have all the advice or all the secrets in the world, but unless you execute and you get it done, then it all goes to waste. And
yeah, I always tell people, there's always do's and don'ts, but there's not too many secrets left in life that people don't know about.
Yeah. And I'd err on the side of, if you invest $10,000 with somebody, you're probably going to put in a little bit more effort to, work hard and make sure you implement, as opposed to buying a $99 course and then just going, so what? I didn't really want it that bad.
Right. Well, that's the other part of it too. You buy a $99 course, if you're the kind of person who falls through, you fall through. Or, last year I paid $20,000 to work with this business coach. Well, guess what? She pushed me to make that $20,000 back in January, and the rest of the year was free. So I made my money back in 1 month. And that's the level of business coach that she was. She was like, you're spending a lot of money with me. We should make that back right now. And so we did. We did some sales and we did an offer. And I had the highest sales month that I had ever had at that time. And, I was like, great. I already paid for my coaching in 1 month. Now I get the rest of the year free. That's awesome.
And what a great way to think about it as well. So, Lauren, it's been absolutely fantastic having you here on the podcast. Awesome to hear about your amazing success in almost every venture that you're doing and onwards and upwards from here. So before we wrap it up, where can our listeners find and follow and listen and get courses and everything from you if they're interested?
Yeah. So my main website is laurenbateman.com. That's the main guitar website. If you're interested in the YouTube stuff, it's Full-Time Tubers. But I'm always on Instagram. It's at the Lauren Bateman. You guys can message me. It's not a VA or a bot that's answering questions. If you message me on Instagram, it is me getting back to you. Sometimes if you send an email through a website, it might be my assistant. But if you want to talk to me directly at the Lauren Bateman on Instagram, that's the best way to reach out and chat with me.
Lauren Bateman, thank you so much for joining us on the Top Music Guitar podcast. We'll look forward to speaking to you very soon. And of course, check her out online, laurenbateman.com. Thank you so much, Lauren. Have a fantastic afternoon there, I guess it is, over in Boston.
Yeah. All right. Thanks so much.
And guys, thank you so much for listening. We definitely want to hear some recommendations for who else you'd like to have podcasts with. Let us know in the forum or wherever you're listening here. So thanks again, guys, and we'll see you in the next episode. If you enjoy this show and want to hear more of our work, be sure to subscribe to this podcast. For links and resources mentioned in this episode, including a free ebook on how to find more guitar students, visit us at www.topmusic.co/guitar or check out the show notes. And lastly, thanks again for listening, and we'll see you in the next episode.